Egypt, the land of enigmatic women, where desert sands conceal ancient secrets. What if I told you there's a nation where women once commanded armies that conquered continents, where female pharaohs built monuments still standing today, where goddesses held equal power to gods in determining cosmic fate? Now picture this same land recording the planet's second highest rate of female genital mutilation at 87%, according to UNICEF data from 2016. Imagine discovering that 99.3% of women in this country face sexual harassment, as documented by UN Women's Comprehensive 2013 study. Welcome to Egypt, humanity's greatest contradiction, a civilization that birthed some of history's most influential women leaders, while simultaneously harboring modern realities that would make those ancient queens weep. This isn't about romanticizing the past or demonizing the present. This is about understanding how a society that invented the concept of powerful goddesses ended up with domestic violence rates affecting 35% of its female population. Before we dive deeper into this complex reality, a quick reminder: YouTube has been removing subscriptions without notice. Check right now if you're still subscribed and hit that like button. This strengthens our channel and ensures you receive upcoming investigations. And definitely comment below. Your perspective matters. Today we're uncovering the Egypt that tourism brochures never mention, where Cleopatra's legacy collides with contemporary laws that still discriminate by gender, where women bearing ancient queens' names struggle against traditions their namesakes would have abolished. Egypt houses 105 million people, with women comprising 49.6% of the population. Yet when we examine actual statistics, we discover a society at war with itself. Consider this jarring reality. While Egypt celebrates its female pharaohs in museums, only 22.8% of its women participate in formal employment, according to World Bank data from 2020. While tourists marvel at Hatshepsut's temple, 17% of Egyptian girls marry before age 18, often escaping poverty through child marriage that UNICEF documents as rising since COVID-19 economic pressures intensified. This contradiction isn't accidental. It's the product of millennia of cultural transformations, invasions, colonizations, and religious shifts that created a unique society where glorious feminine past has become both burden and inspiration. Every Egyptian woman navigates the tension between what her ancestors achieved and what current society permits her to accomplish. Are you prepared to discover how a civilization that created the world's first documented female doctors ended up with healthcare systems where women need male guardian permission for basic procedures? Join me as we explore one of modernity's most profound and disturbing contradictions, where ancient history and present reality clash in ways that will surprise and unsettle you equally. Understanding today's Egyptian women requires examining concrete archaeological evidence, proving that ancient Egypt operated under fundamentally different gender dynamics than what followed. But we're not romanticizing history. We're analyzing documented legal systems that granted women rights many modern societies still struggle to achieve. Papyrus legal documents from the Middle Kingdom, 2055-1650 BCE, record women initiating divorce proceedings, inheriting substantial properties, operating independent businesses, and serving as legal witnesses in complex court cases. The Wilbur Papyrus, dated 1141 BCE, catalogues 2,500 landowners, including 340 women who possessed agricultural estates under their own names. This wasn't progressive ideology. This was practical law in a society requiring maximum human potential utilization for survival in extreme desert conditions. Administrative records from Deir el-Medina, the royal tomb builder's village, reveal women managing family finances, owning slaves, and engaging in sophisticated property litigation. These weren't exceptional cases, but routine legal proceedings documented in hundreds of surviving papyri. Women worked as doctors, scribes, priestesses, and business managers with legal protections that wouldn't reappear in this region for millennia. The systematic dismantling began with successive conquests. Persian rule, 525 BCE, introduced inheritance laws restricting female property rights. Greek Ptolemaic control, 332 BCE, imported Hellenistic concepts confining upper-class women to domestic spaces. Roman occupation, 30 BCE, imposed male guardianship systems. But the most dramatic transformation arrived with Christianization, 4th century CE, and subsequent Arab conquest, 641 CE. Islamic legal codes, while progressive compared to many contemporary laws, represented significant reduction compared to ancient Egyptian freedoms. Women lost unilateral divorce rights. Their legal testimony valued half that of men, and inheritance became fractional rather than equal. Medieval texts, like The Perfect State of Women, document how pharaonic liberties were systematically eroded through religious reinterpretation. By the Ottoman period, 1517 to 1867, Egyptian women lived under restrictions similar to other imperial provinces: domestic confinement for wealthy classes, agricultural labor for poor families, but minimal public participation. European travelers, 18th century accounts describe a society where women wore complete veils and rarely appeared in public spaces, a dramatic contrast to ancient tomb paintings showing women in positions of authority. British colonization, 1882 to 1952, introduced additional contradictions, limited female education to create local administrative classes, while maintaining traditional structures to prevent social resistance. This explosive mixture of selective modernization and imposed conservatism created tensions still defining modern Egyptian women's experiences. The result: a nation with collective memory of female power, but lacking legal, social, or economic structures to support it. Modern Egyptian women inherited names like Nefertiti and Cleopatra. While living under laws those queens would have considered barbarically restrictive, official Egyptian statistics paint an incomplete picture of women's reality. We need hard data from independent international organizations to understand the true situation, and those numbers are genuinely shocking. First, female genital mutilation as normalized tradition. UNICEF's 2016 comprehensive study revealed 87% of Egyptian women aged 15–49 have undergone female genital mutilation, the world's second highest rate after Somalia. This practice, typically performed between ages 9 to 12, affects girls across all social classes, 85% in urban areas, 89% in rural regions. Though illegal since 2008, Population Council's 2020 investigation found 14% of girls still undergo the procedure, frequently performed by doctors charging 200 to 500 Egyptian pounds, 13 to 32 USD per case. Amira Hassan, a 31-year-old survivor from Luxor, shares, "They cut me at age 11 in my aunt's kitchen. My mother said it would make me clean and ensure I'd be a good wife. Years passed before I understood they had mutilated me. Now I fight to protect my daughter, but my mother-in-law insists it's religious tradition." Second, sexual harassment as universal experience. UN Women's Clouds in Egypt's Sky Study 2013 documented that 99.3% of Egyptian women have experienced some form of sexual harassment. This isn't statistical exaggeration. Incidents range from verbal comments to physical assaults in public transportation. Results showed 96.5% experienced street harassment, 95.5% on public transport, 93.4% in markets. Only 2.5% of victims report incidents to authorities due to social stigma fears. Third, domestic violence as silenced reality. Egypt's Demographic and Health Survey 2014 documented 35% of women experiencing physical violence from husbands. However, organizations like El Nadim Center for Rehabilitation of Victims of Violence estimate actual figures approach 60%, considering many victims don't report abuse due to family and religious pressure. Fourth, labor participation as statistical mirage. While official figures cite 22.8% female workforce participation, World Bank 2020, reality proves more complex. Analysis reveals 67% of these women work in unpaid agriculture or informal economy without labor protections. Only 8% of Egyptian women hold formal employment with contracts and social benefits. Dr. Nawal El-Sadawi, psychiatrist and feminist activist, explained before her 2021 death, official statistics are makeup on a corpse. Reality is that Egyptian women live under multiple oppression systems: familial, religious, economic, and state. Each reinforces the others. Fifth, child marriage as poverty escape mechanism. Though legal marriage age is 18, UNICEF reports 17% of Egyptian girls marry before 18, often through urfi, informal marriages, evading legal controls. In Upper Egypt, this figure rises to 25%. Families view early marriage as economic protection during crises, especially after COVID-19 increased family poverty. The contrast is brutal. A country proudly displaying powerful queens, statues, while its modern women face violence levels exceeding regional and international averages. Within this devastating reality, extraordinary women wage epic battles against seemingly immutable traditions. These aren't easy success stories. They're chronicles of daily resistance against systems punishing those daring to challenge the status quo. First, legal activists as institutional wall demolishers. Aza Soliman, human rights lawyer, has represented over 15,000 violence victims through her Center for Egyptian Women's Legal Assistance. Her work achieved concrete legislative changes: sexual harassment criminalization in 2014, stricter anti-FGM laws in 2016. But costs are severe. She's faced 17 legal cases, asset freezing, and constant threats. Every case I win means 100 more women dare seek justice, Aza states. Second, digital entrepreneurs creating safe spaces. Yasmin El-Maheri founded Supermama, a platform connecting working mothers with flexible employment opportunities. Over 5 years, she's facilitated jobs for 25,000 women unable to work in traditional offices due to family restrictions. "I'm not changing family culture," Yasmin explains. "I'm creating economic alternatives that make those restrictions irrelevant." Third, clandestine educators fighting genital mutilation. Dr. Randa Fakir El-Dain, gynecologist, developed educational programs reducing FGM in 40 Upper Egypt villages. Her strategy: collaborating with religious leaders and traditional midwives to reinterpret Islamic texts. "You can't combat a 2,000-year tradition with Western laws," Randa says. "You must use the same sources justifying it to prove it's religiously forbidden." Fourth, journalists as forbidden truth chroniclers. Reporters like Lina Atala, Madamasa editor, have documented state violence cases against women that authorities preferred silencing. Her investigation into sexual torture in prisons resulted in international pressure forcing penitentiary reforms. The cost: government censorship, legal threats, and pressure for self-censorship. "If we don't document violence, it becomes normalized," Lina explains. Fifth, artists as cultural subversives. Singer Shireen Abdel Wahab was arrested in 2019 for joking about the Nile River during concerts, but continued using her platform addressing divorce and female employment issues. Actress Ghada Adel has rejected roles glorifying female suffering, choosing characters showing empowered women. These decisions cost millions in contracts, but influenced younger artists, generations. Most impressive is the Tahrir Square Mothers case. During 2011 protests, women like Aida Sifel Dawla organized protection networks for female demonstrators, documented systematic sexual assaults by security forces, and created self-defense protocols, saving thousands of lives. Their work continued post-revolution, establishing clandestine shelters for violence victims ignored by official institutions. These women aren't waiting for systemic change. They're changing systems from within, using every crack in patriarchal structures to create freedom spaces benefiting millions of Egyptian women. After exploring this complex and often painful reality, Egypt clearly stands at a historic inflection point. Egyptian women aren't simply fighting for modern rights. They're waging cultural warfare to redefine what being female means in a society venerating its female ancestors while oppressing its daughters. Demographic trends reveal a society in accelerated transformation. By 2030, women will represent 60% of Egyptian university graduates, creating an educated class demanding economic opportunities the current system cannot provide. This contradiction between massive female education and limited employment opportunities is creating unsustainable social pressure, forcing systemic changes. Economic data reveals discrimination's real cost. The World Economic Forum calculates Egypt loses $12.7 billion annually through female workforce exclusion. This figure isn't abstract. It represents unbuilt hospitals, unfunded schools, undeveloped infrastructure. Economic pressure is forcing even conservative sectors to reconsider restrictions they can no longer economically afford. The technological revolution is creating spaces where traditional restrictions become irrelevant. Platforms like Eventus, founded by Nihal Fars, and Rology, co-founded by Shireen Khoury, employ thousands of women working remotely, avoiding street harassment and family restrictions on schedules. This parallel digital economy grows 40% annually, creating economic alternatives traditional structures cannot control. But systemic obstacles persist and adapt. The Egyptian government launched the National Strategy for Women's Empowerment 2030, promising to end FGM and increase female labor participation to 35%. However, activists like Mohsen Hassan, Nazra for Feminist Studies founder, note these initiatives lack real enforcement mechanisms and frequently coexist with policies restricting civic space where women organize resistance. The most unpredictable factor is generational. Egyptian women under 25 grew up with internet access, mass education, and exposure to global female role models. Pew Research Center surveys show 73% of young Egyptian women consider gender equality very important, compared to 34% of women over 50. This generational gap creates family conflicts transcending politics to become battles over Egyptian cultural identity. The central question isn't whether Egyptian women will reclaim power spaces. Data suggests it's inevitable. The question is whether this transformation occurs through gradual evolution or violent rupture. As sociologist Dr. Hoda El-Sadr explains, Egypt has two options: adapt its structures to include female potential or face social revolution, making 2011 protests look like rehearsal. The pharaohs' legacy isn't just ancient history, it's a cultural time bomb. Every Egyptian girl learning about Hatshepsut, Nefertiti, or Cleopatra receives a subversive message. Female power isn't Western or modern, it's authentically Egyptian. This narrative proves more powerful than any imported human rights arguments. Which of these realities about Egyptian women impacted you most? Did you know the land of female pharaohs has today's highest FGM rates globally? Share this video to amplify voices needing to be heard, and tell us in comments what you think about this brutal contrast between glorious past and painful present. If you found this analysis valuable, subscribe, because we'll continue exploring our modern world's deepest contradictions.